Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Na 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 na. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and absolutely pathetic again. Let's go. Yeah, we're done. We're done for the season. We had our good run, and we can't find it again. It is Potter 2.0, 100%. The fact of the matter is, looking over the past 5 games, this has been a run of games that everybody expected us, including us, to pick up a good amount of points on. Maybe slip up a couple of times, but I would say at least we were expecting to get 10 points out of this. You look at the Everton game, that's a tough one. You might drop some points there. You look at the Palace away game, that's always a tough place to go. There are other Big Six teams that have also dropped points there this season. So I look at those 2 games and I think, yeah, okay, drop points there. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. But the fact of the matter is, you should be beating Fulham at home. They're a good team. We should be beating them at home this year. The way we've been playing, comfortably putting them away. Ipswich definitely should be beating them. Bournemouth at home, 100% should be beating them. And the problem is, with every game that we don't win now, it doesn't matter how tough these games are starting to get, they're starting to become must-win games. The pressure is piling and piling and piling now, and we're not finding an answer. Maresca is not doing anything to change it. Because if you look at it game by game, again, the Everton one is a tough one. We typically lose there. We managed to pick up a point. It's not a win, but hey, we didn't lose, okay? So there's something out of that. Then you go home to Fulham, and you lose that game. And it's embarrassing because you lose in basically the last 10 minutes. You just give the game away with some awful defending. Now all of a sudden it's a little, okay, that's a concern, but it's okay. We got Ipswich. It's like a shot in the arm. Okay, we got to pick ourselves up. Let's get back to what we know how to do. And then you go and lose to Ipswich, which is not happening to pretty much anybody in the top 6 this season outside of Tottenham, but they're a joke, so who cares? And now you're going away to Palace, again, a difficult place to go, and now you have to win. It is a must-win game because you've dropped points 3 games in a row. You've lost 2 in a row against teams you should be beating. And you go and you draw, and that's another 2 drop points. Now you've picked up 2 out of a possible 12. You've scored 2 goals out of 4 games. So then you go and you comfortably handle Morecambe on the weekend in the FA Cup. Coming into the game against Bournemouth, we should be winning this. We should be going in there. We should be winning this game. No disrespect to Bournemouth. They are obviously a very good team this year. They've done very well for themselves. We should be beating Bournemouth at home. That's just the facts of it. The way we've been playing this season, we should be the better team. We should be handling our business. But what do? The same thing we've done the past 4 games. And it's funny because I think myself and a lot of other people recently have been asking questions about Maresca's unwillingness to adapt. Because early in the season, it seemed like he was willing to make some changes here or there. Felt like he was willing to change things up based on whoever we were playing. And yet, I look at this game, and it's like we played right into Bournemouth's hands. I remember earlier in the season, they were talking about, the coach set us up. We watched some tapes. We knew where the space was going to be, so we exploited that. We were prepared for that. Did nobody watch the tapes for Bournemouth? It was literally Martin Tyler in the commentary is talking about Bournemouth are one of the highest teams. I think they have 135 turnovers in the final third. And yet, what did we do? We do what we've done for the past few games, which is keep a lot of possession in the back. Keep knocking it around the back. Keep going backwards. Go down the field. It's not there. Let's go backwards. Let's put our defense and our terrible keeper, who is not good with his feet, and we know this, let's keep putting them under pressure. Because, the pass isn't there right now. So instead of trying it, instead of maybe going for it, instead of trying to maybe keep possession a little bit further forward down the pitch, let's go backwards. Let's play right into Bournemouth's hands so they can win it back off of us and maybe cause some trouble. I don't get it. I don't understand what happened between the beginning of the season and now. Did they just get tired of watching the tapes? Players go, hey, coach, can we not watch tapes anymore? It's kind of boring. I'm falling asleep now whenever we go through this. Because again, if Bournemouth are that good of a team when it comes to pressing, I think the instructions would be, let's not play it backwards. Let's not go back to our keeper 20 times this game. I honestly want to know the number because I feel like it's close to 20. The amount of times that we went back to Sanchez. And yes, his passing is terrible. I'm not going to say that he doesn't have fault for not working on that and getting better, but as I've said before, we know he's bad at passing. So why does the defense, why do our midfielders, whenever there are options, decide, hey, let's go back to our keeper who can't pass? That's on them. The fact of the matter is, yes, Sanchez needs to get better passing-wise. We know this. But the defense and the midfield also know this. So if they're making the conscious decision when there are other options to play it back to him, then it's their fault whenever he makes a mistake. When Colwill has Cucurella on his left and he has Achimpong on the right, both of them have plenty of space, and instead of going to either of them, under pressure, he decides, all right, I'm going to turn it around and pass it back to the keeper, who I know I can't pass. That's on Colwill then if he makes a mistake, if he kicks it out of bounds on his pass. And it was just throughout the entire game, we kept doing it. Even whenever it started to cause some problems after we got our goal and they started to put a little bit more pressure, started causing some issues. We started giving it away to them. We started finding ourselves kind of on the back foot in the first half, but we kept doing it. In the second half, what do? We started to do it again. And then lo and behold, they poke it off of Lavia, go through, get a penalty, and now all of a sudden it's 1-1. And now they are on the front foot. Now they have the momentum. And 100% clarity, I kind of stopped watching after the second goal. I thought for sure the game was done. Because, I mean, I've seen this script before. I've seen us be 1-0 up at halftime. We give away 2 goals and we have no answer. It's happened for the past few years. Basically, since Sarri, this has been what's been going on at our club. We have a lot of possession. We dominate the first half. We can't put our chances away. The other team comes out second half, boom, 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 and all of a sudden we're dropping points. Happens so often. And with Maresca, it kind of felt like we were putting teams to bed. We were putting the game out of reach, scoring plenty of goals. Goals have dried up, and our defense is still shit. So here we are. We're giving up 2 more goals against Bournemouth. But on that note, obviously some of my opinions on individuals in this game might not be wholly clarified since, again, I didn't watch much of it. I was glancing down. I had errands to run, and once again, I thought the game was over. So I had it on my phone, and I was sort of glancing down every so often to see what was happening. I did catch James's free kick, but I can't really say that I saw enough to really judge, for instance, the subs that came on. So for Maresca today, I got to say it was another very poor performance from him from a manager point of view. His subs also were terrible, in my opinion. You take Lavia off after he makes the mistake that leads to the penalty. You take Achimpong off after he lets Semenyo pass him to score the winner, or at the time the winner. And then for some reason doesn't take Madueke off until, what was it, like 78, I think? At that point, it's way too late. He brings Felix on, finally, in a game where we needed a bit more creativity, but he brings him on 78th minute. It's way too late. He's not going to have enough time to get into the game at that point. So in my opinion, yes, the players have not been performing very well over the past few matches, but Maresca has really, really dropped off. Gone from one of the best managers this season to bottom 5, maybe. He's absolutely had little to no impact on the game in the past 5 matches where we've not picked up a win in the league, of course. But before we get on to individuals, 2 things I did want to talk about. First of all is the top 4 race, because now obviously we are slowly slipping out. We were helped today by the fact that somehow Fulham and Man City also dropped points, but Newcastle, I fully expect them to thump Wolves tomorrow. So we are going to be dropping out of the top 4 this weekend. Or this week. And the truth of it is, I don't see us getting back into it. I don't see us doing enough in the next few games. I mean, I know we have Man City on the horizon, but it doesn't really matter who we're facing right now. I don't see us looking confident enough to pick up points. And like I said earlier this season, when everybody was talking about, oh, we're not in the title race, but everybody else wanted us to be in the title race, in my opinion, what I wanted this season, the goals that I set for this season were win the Conference League, top 4 finish. Right now, Conference League still looks pretty comfortable, but to be fair, all it takes is one slip up now. But top 4, in my opinion, it almost feels like it's gone now. I don't feel like I'm confident enough that we are going to pick up enough points to stay in the top 4. We had a great start to the season that put us comfortably there, but the complete capitulation over the past 5 matches is what's thrown it away, is what's pushed us out of the top 4. And this is where it's a huge lack of inconsistency. It's not just, oh, we have a lot of good players that it will slip up occasionally, and we have a manager who maybe gets it wrong every now and then. It has been since the Everton draw, we have not gotten anything right. We've done so many things wrong. We have just thrown away matches. And it's concerning that, like I said, for Maresca, it doesn't feel like he has an answer. I go back to the Potter days, and it didn't feel like after we started to slip up, after we had that initial good run of form under Potter, it felt like we started to slip up and there was just no answers. We would lose, we would lose, we would lose. We'd maybe get a draw and then we'd lose. We could not find a way to win. And the Lampard came in, and I think it got even worse. I think we tended to lose more than we drew. So in the idea of this season and finishing top 4, I think if Maresca doesn't finish top 4, it shows he doesn't have the qualities to actually make us a good quality team. Because as a manager, I know he's a little hamstrung right now considering the lack of players, and that is definitely on the board. And I'm 100% going back to my thumbnail of just me with all of the names out as my hashtags. But even with some of the issues that Maresca's been dealt, the lack of a quality keeper, the lack of a good solid back line, and then a backup striker for Jackson, even without that, I look at his tactics, I look at what he's been doing the past few games, he has absolutely just thrown these games away. He has not done anything to get us 3 points in any of these matches. All of his subs have either been non-existent or too late, and his tactics have just been bare bones, easy to predict, and every team has done exactly what they needed to get points off of us. And then we will talk about the red card incident because, Rob Jones, I think, is the center ref today. He's got to be better. Because I realize the camera angles do make it difficult. We don't get a real close-up to see how much contact there was on his face. The fact of the matter is, though, you've got a guy throwing his arm up into near the head of an opposing player, and it's not like he's tried to grab him and keep him from running out. It is a thrown arm into the head of a player who's breaking out. But it takes me back, and I don't even remember exactly who it was. It might have been João Pedro, but Silva had the ball. It was a couple of years ago, and plays it to the keeper or another defender or something. And I just remember the striker comes in and just gives him one of these to the back of the head. And nothing. No VAR check, no nothing. Just play on. And I remember thinking at the time, you can't just throw your arm at somebody's head and get away with it. It's one thing if there's like a shoving match. We've seen it a couple times where you got to shove and sometimes it can get a little close to the head. Then it's tough. I remember Ziyech, he got himself sent off against Tottenham, but it got reversed because he went to push like Udogi's shoulder and it like slid up off his shoulder and into his face. So that type of thing can happen. There's not really an intent to strike an opponent's head there. But this is a situation similar to the situation on Silva where it's not just a shove, it's I'm throwing my arm, and it's not low, it is high enough to connect with the head. That is a red card. That's not part of the game. That is, I'm trying to hurt you. And Cucurella, for his part, did give him a little bit in the first half, that shoulder check, which is also kind of stupid from him, but I wouldn't say it's a red card. Maybe yellow, because doing that off of the ball is kind of you probably shouldn't be doing that. So it does blow my mind. I'm not saying we would have won that match. I think Bournemouth still had enough momentum and still knew how to play against us well enough to have gotten a point off of us in this game, even if they were down to 10. But it is frustrating that we've had quite a few red card challenges against our players this season. You think about the 2 on Palmer from Martinez and from, was it Ndidi, I think, against Leicester? You have those 2 red card challenges completely go unlooked at. You have the potential red card from Pickford on Gusto, and then you've got this arm bar on Cucurella's head. None of them get red cards, and it's blowing my mind that none of them get looked at. But anyways, moving on. Individuals. Sanchez, passing's terrible. Shot stopping, it wasn't. I can't really blame him for either of the goals. The first one, it's a penalty. Yes, I have my own personal opinions about guessing instead of standing up and trying to read where he's about to go. But it's not like I'm going to sit here and say, oh, you didn't save a penalty? Well, you're terrible. Second one, it is near post, but it's one of those that's hard. I've seen them go in more often than not. If you can hit it near post but hit it high and with power, most of the time keepers, they are down low, they're trying to make themselves big, they're not ready to get up. So more often than not, if you put it kind of upper corner of the near post, you're going to end up with a goal there. And so that's what ended up happening. So I can't really blame him on either of those. And again, his passing, yes, it's atrocious. I can't defend that at all. What I can defend is, once again, why are we using him so much for his feet? We know this about him. We know that's a problem. We know Bournemouth are good at pressing high and winning the ball back. So why are we using his feet so much? That's on the defenders, that's on the midfielders, and it's on Maresca for not telling them to stop doing that. Now moving on to the defense, first with Achimpong. not great from him today, but I also did not expect it to be. I don't really know why Maresca has just suddenly decided to start starting him in these high stakes Premier League matches. I mean, Bournemouth, they have a lot of really good players. They're chasing Europe. And Achimpong's been good, but playing well against Palace does not equate to playing well against Bournemouth, because Palace, they're kind of lower table, not quite relegation battle, but not good. They're not a good team this year. So it's a bit easier for him. Bournemouth's going to be a tough game for him. And he's only 18. He's not ready to be starting these games yet. And all this is going to do is kill his confidence, because it is his fault for the second goal. He let Semenyo way too easily get past him. So I don't understand why all of a sudden Tosin's just dropped out of the team. I don't understand what he did for Maresca to go, you know what? I'm going to start trusting this 18-year-old who's only played in Carabao Cup maybe, and then the Conference League. I'm going to start trusting him to play against these Premier League sides, against these Champions League chasing sides, over this guy who has been playing well, who's saved us in the past few games. Cole on the left, I thought, should be doing a bit better today. Not terrible, but for being one of our exciting young center backs that's come through the academy and has now started, I feel like it's gone from he was shaky at the beginning of the season and then slowly got better and better and was kind of just doing his business. And then recently started to drop back down, started to drop back into that. Kind of feels like he's starting to make some mistakes. The passes are a little bit loose. He's not really tracking runners as well. The mistakes are creeping into his game a bit more. So I can't say it was a terrible game from him, but I also do think I expect more from him overall. And like I said earlier, I didn't really fully watch the final 20 minutes, so maybe he did some really good stuff that kept us in the game, gave us that ability to get the point. But for what I saw in the first half and some of the second half, I don't really feel like he affected the game as much as he should be. I feel like it's a little too easy to play through us, and a lot of that comes from him. For Cucurella, it's not one of his better games. Still a lot of energy, still created a lot of good stuff, but defensively, he was relied on a lot more today because it was Caicedo slipping into the midfield instead of him. So now he's having to stay back a bit more, and he's not that great of a defender when he's staying back. I feel like when he has a bit more of a free role to roam in the midfield and just go run and make challenges, I think that's when he looks better. Whenever he has to stay back there and be a left-sided center back, basically. Because one of the plays that I do remember seeing after I stopped fully watching in the second half was he's in the corner and he's under a bit of pressure, and it feels like all he has to do is just find a simple pass or just get it out of bounds and no problem. And instead he ends up kicking it into the guy, who then turns and runs inside with the ball, and now all of a sudden we're under pressure, and it all comes from him with a silly giveaway. So it really wasn't great from him today. But I also do think some of that is just based on his positioning and where he was being played today compared to where he normally plays. Caicedo, he was that right back slipping into the midfield today. We've seen him play there before. It worked okay in the first half, but then in the second half, it did feel like Bournemouth figured out how to utilize Semenyo and cause more problems down our right side. And, of course, at that point, after we give up the penalty and the goal, that's when Maresca goes, oh, you know what? Maybe I should change this now. But Caicedo today, not really at his best. I thought he had some good moments in the first half on the ball. Defensively, I thought he made a couple of good challenges. But we've seen better from him. We've seen him control the midfield a lot better in the past. It's one of those, I hold him to a higher standard. So he wasn't bad today at all, but based on his performances throughout this season, it was not quite up to his typical type of performance. Moving into the midfield, Lavia, like I said, the penalty is on him today. And overall, his performance was not great. I remember talking about this earlier in the season, but when he first played, I think it was against Liverpool, he looked quality. He looked like he was good on the ball. He was able to take it past players, but defensively he also worked pretty hard. And then it just slowly sort of dropped off, and suddenly Fernandes started to rise, and eventually Fernandes took that position, and then obviously Lavia got hurt. And so he's back now from injury, and I gotta say, I've not been too impressed since his return from injury. I thought he was okay, not super effective, but decent against Morecambe. And now looking at this game, had a couple of moments, but not nearly what we need from him. I think about the defensive challenges that we needed him to make, and it felt like he was just behind it way too often. He was getting run past way too easily at times. And Caicedo typically doesn't allow players to get past him. So we just needed more from him defensively today. So looking at it overall, decent on the ball in the first half, but not really in the second half. And defensively, both halves, I didn't think he was really up to scratch. Enzo, I think, had a pretty solid game today. Had some really good defense cutting passes, created a lot. But ironically, this is something that I've had an issue with him for a while, and it's why I didn't think he worked very well as a 10 last season under Pochettino. It's because I remember thinking anytime he got within 5 yards of the 18-yard box, it was like all of his brain cells just left, and he had no idea what passes to make. His shooting wasn't great. This season, I thought he's looked a little bit better, but today, once again, it did feel like we needed him to be a bit more clinical with his final pass, with his shot. And unfortunately, he just didn't have that today. But everything else in the build-up, I thought he looked fine. Don't know if he faded in the second half. I know he was not the one to come off for Felix. It was Caicedo. So obviously, Maresca thought he was playing well enough to keep him on the pitch for longer. But I do think overall he was probably close to my player of the match. Palmer's going to get it, obviously. But looking at everybody else on the field, I thought he had probably the most influence on the game outside of Palmer. Madueke, I don't know why he's playing. He was not even on the bench against Morecambe. So I thought, okay, so he's done something else to get himself in trouble. And all of a sudden he's starting over Neto. And I'm thinking, so why did we sub Neto off at halftime then? Was it really because, he's just not playing well? Because to be honest, I mean, I didn't think Neto was playing phenomenally, but I don't think he was a problem against Morecambe. So I saw all of the halftime subs as resting legs, whether it was players returning from injury or whether it was players that were going to play today. So the fact that Neto doesn't start and Madueke does, I'm thinking, well, okay, that's odd, considering Madueke wasn't involved on the weekend. And obviously they said it was illness, but we've heard illness before, and then it turns out it's not illness. So I figured that was just there was a problem behind the scenes, but we're going to say illness because we don't want to stir any pots right now. We don't want to cause any more trouble than the club already has with our current run of form. So he starts, and I'm thinking, all right, well, if he's going to start him, hopefully that means that he's up for this, he's ready to play, and then he goes out there and he's shit. Once again, a terrible performance from him, and all I could think is he's got to be gone, right? We've got to be looking to move him on because he has done nothing since the Wolves game. He has been terrible this season. And now he's starting over Neto, does nothing, and then stays on the pitch until the 79th minute. Why? And honestly, I know Achimpong didn't do well with Semenyo leading to the second goal, but I kind of start the blame with Madueke. Because I don't remember who it was. I think it was Fernandez. Puts the ball up to him. Terrible touch. Out of bounds for a throw-in. They go and score off of that throw-in. So if you have a decent touch there, if you don't kick it out of bounds because of a donkey touch, guess what? They don't go down and they don't score and make it 2-1. And just throughout the entire match, once again, he's wasting chances. There's a moment in the first half. He gets the ball down the line. Palmer is top of the box, nobody around him, which is not usual. Most of the time there's somebody there. And all he's got to do, pick his head up and see him first time, play him. Palmer has a chance to shoot, maybe get a goal. But he doesn't see it because his head's down. And then he takes a touch, picks his head up. Palmer's now blocked by two defenders because you took that extra touch. Now the chance to pass it to him is gone. And the best he can hope for is take it down the line, try to have a cross in, and then the defender pokes it out for a corner. So it went from a decent chance to get a shot on target for one of our best players at the top of the box with nobody around him. And now it's, we got a corner out of it, and we don't score off of corners. And then the first big Jackson miss is on him as well, because the ball into him was terrible. I mean, first of all, you took way too long. You slowed down the play. I think it was like a 3-on-3 break is what we had. And then all of a sudden he slows it down, and now it becomes a 6-on-3. They have more numbers back. And then the ball you give to Jackson is like this topspin mishit pass. And anytime a ball has that much topspin on it, and that much pace, it's going to be almost impossible to keep it down. Maybe the best strikers in the world can manage to have a decent touch on it and find a way to guide it in. But for most players, that's going to be difficult to put in because there was so much topspin on it. And then for the rest of the match, he was just non-existent. I don't remember him doing much of anything. So I don't know how many more of these lackluster performances he's going to need before Maresca finally just says, you know what? You're done. But this was just another one that, in my opinion, shows we need to move him on. And I don't know if that's the plan. I don't know if they're looking to do that. But my God, I'm sick of seeing him here. I'm sick of seeing him play because it's just ridiculous. He could easily go to a mid-table side, and he'd probably be great there. He could be another Grealish for a Villa, that star baller. Like Hudson-Odoi for Forest. He was never going to make it at Chelsea, but he goes to a team like Forest and he gets to just be himself. He gets to go out there and be a winger that can be a bit selfish and can take on players because Yeah, it's Forest. You can do that there. You can't do that at Chelsea. You got to be a team player. You got to play with all these really talented players around you. You have to use them. You have to pick your head up and see what's going on around you. It's not all about you. But that's not how he plays. And he doesn't have enough quality. You think about Hazard, you think about Palmer. Those type of players, they can't make it all about themselves because they are good enough to do so. They have the quality to do so. Madueke doesn't have that much quality. He's got some pace. He's got a little bit of trickery about him. He does not have the level of quality that he needs to be a selfish player. And then for Palmer, like I said, he's man of the match. I don't know if he faded in the second half like he's been doing in the past few games, but his first half performance was really great. Outside of the goal, I mean, he had so many chances that he's creating. He's moving the ball really well. I do think the only issue that I have is there are some chances that he's wasted that I feel like in the past he's not been wasting, and obviously a lack of goals has been our issue recently, so he is partially at fault for that. So it's a nitpick more than anything because his overall performance is good enough for me to not be that upset by it. But considering we need goals, we need him to step up and start scoring more of these opportunities. And then Sancho on the left, I thought looked creative, looked dangerous, but that lack of finishing once again hurts us because he's not willing to take that chance. He's not willing to take a shot whenever he has a good opportunity to. And then the two times I remember him taking a shot, it's whenever there's a defender right in front of him. So he's got to be a bit smarter about when to cut in and take that shot and when to look for the pass, because it feels like he's always choosing the wrong option no matter what he's doing. And then Jackson, and this is going to be one of those controversial ones because I look at his overall play, looked really good today. He was probably our most dangerous player in the first half. The runs he was making, the passes that he put Palmer onto, both the one for the goal and then there was another one where he had a great turn and nice little flick outside the foot to Palmer who's making a run and the defender does well to get in front of him. But, I mean, he's causing so much trouble. But, of course, he doesn't score, so all the talk is going to be about, once again, he's just not good enough. And the problem is, I think he is. He just needs the confidence. And that is where I do agree we need a backup striker that can take that position whenever he's not cutting it, because I do think he needs help. I don't think he can play as the main man because he is going to have these drops in confidence. He is going to have these sets of games where maybe he's not quite playing at his best. And we need another striker to come in and do what he does on the ball, do what he does defensively, pressing-wise, and yet can also get goals. And we don't have that. We have Nkuku who occasionally gets goals, but doesn't nearly do what Jackson does on the ball and off the ball. And then we have Guiu who does do a lot of what Jackson does on the ball and off the ball, but again, can't get goals because he's too young and raw. So we just need somebody that can fill that Jackson void whenever he does drop out of confidence, whenever he does drop out of form. But with that being said, I will say the three big misses that I remember in the first half that people are going to be blaming him for, I'm sure. First one, like I said, it's Madueke. Terrible ball in from him. There's not much he can do on that. Second one, I can't really blame him for. It's actually a decently taken shot. Turns the defender, manages to run, does a little step over, opens up a bit of space, and has a good shot. It's just onto the post, unfortunately. But it's well taken. It's not like he scuffed the shot. He tried to bend it around the keeper. He did. It just was a little too far wide. So that one I can't really say he's at fault for. But the third one, I will say, is hard to defend. I think the header was okay. It's not really off his forehead. It's kind of flicked off the top of his head. But I still think it was on target. The keeper had to make a good save for it. But it's the follow-up that I will say it's got to be better. It's got to be a bit more composed. He just kind of flings his left foot at it and then mishits it and it goes wide. It is coming at him quick, but he's got to be more composed there. That is the one that I will criticize him on and say he's got to do better. But I can't sit here and say, some people are trying to say that we just need to move him on. He's not ever going to be good enough. I highly disagree with that. I think he is such a good player, but the finishing does need to start coming here soon. And if it's not going to, then we need to get a striker in who can finish and can do what Jackson does whenever he's not able to. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I know there are a lot of names being floated around. I don't know how many of them actually have legs and how many of them are just rumors because they're a striker that's in good form. I will say I know this is a bit of an unpopular pick, but I have heard, obviously, Brighton are looking to loan out Evan Ferguson. I wouldn't mind that one because as far as I remember him also being kind of a high press type of striker and he's young. I know obviously he's been pushed out by João Pedro and Danny Welbeck, so of course people are going to look at that and say if he can't compete with those two, why would we bring him here? But I remember him being a pretty solid young striker, and we don't need him to be the finished product. I don't think we need to bring in the finished product because I think Jackson can get there, but I think he needs another striker who can fill in the gaps when he's not quite getting it done. And I think a younger striker, I know Liam Delap is another one that they're looking at. I think a younger one that isn't quite finished either, but can get some goals. I think there'll be good options that we can use to bring off the bench instead of trying to fit, a 10 and Nkuku up top, or trying to just throw in a 19-year-old in Guiu, who's hardly played at this level. I think a player who does have some Premier League experience and has scored some goals in the Premier League, like Ferguson, I do think that kind of makes sense. I don't know how much the injury has affected him. I don't know if his game has maybe dropped off a bit, but that would be one that I would not mind seeing. I don't think he's one of the top picks, but I don't think that's one that would be a bad choice. I think it would be a good backup for Jackson to just give him that little bit of help. As far as the subs, obviously, I can't say much about him. James, obviously, great goal for the free kick, very well taken, but I did see some of his passes after he came on, and it wasn't great. He does have that lackadaisical look about his passes that can lead us into trouble, so I'm not really happy with how he's returned so far. I know he's probably trying to take it kind of easy as well because of the injury, but I don't think he's going to be the level that we need him to be right now. I don't really remember much for Tosin. I do remember he made a pretty decent stop to keep it 2-1 at one point. And I also do remember him taking a bad touch and letting it sort of dribble over his foot and go out of bounds. I will say, though, Tosin, very similar to Sanchez. He's a good defender, but not great on the ball. So I feel like that's probably why Maresca is trying to push him out in favor of Achimpong, who seems like he's pretty solid on the ball. I just don't get that. I don't understand why we can't change the way we play a little bit, especially in games like this, where once again, we know they're going to be pushing high. Why can't we trust the defenders who know how to defend? Even though they're not great on the ball, we don't need them to be. Let's not play that way today. Let's keep that to a minimum whenever we know the team is going to be putting high press on us. Let's try to get the ball downfield a bit more. And then Felix and Neto coming on, like I said, it was very late for both of them, nearly the 80th minute. So I just don't think they had enough time really to get fully going. But I don't remember seeing much from either of them. I remember seeing one opportunity that looked like it was wasted by Felix. I don't know if either of them did themselves any good, but I also just look at Maresca and go, why are you not trusting them to come on earlier whenever we need to make a change, clearly? Whenever Bournemouth are starting to run away with the match after they get their second, why are we waiting until the 78th minute to say, let's make a change now. Let's put some changes up top. Let's get Felix on for his clever play. Let's get Neto on for his work rate. Let's do that late. Let's wait until near the end of the game, whenever Bournemouth could have probably put a third or fourth one in. Let's not do that early enough to give these players time to grow into the game. I don't understand it. I feel like he's really started to lose his head a bit as a manager, and it's a concern. But with that being said, we move on. We have Wolves coming up at home on Monday, and that should be a win, but who knows? They've got their new manager now. I know they've not been playing well. Again, I fully expect Newcastle to put them to the sword tomorrow. But who knows? The way we've been playing, anybody can take points off of us now. We've not been playing well enough. I don't feel confident enough to say playing at home against Wolves will definitely get a win there. I don't know anymore. And I think that's the biggest frustration over these past few matches. It has shot my confidence in this manager, in this team, in these players. I have so little confidence now that we're going to get the job done that I can't even look at an obvious three-pointer and say, yeah, we'll get that done for sure. I don't know anymore. We could easily get a draw out of that. Wolves could easily pick up a late point on us. We could go up like 3-1 in the first half, and then they come back and they get two late ones to nick a point off of us. It's possible these days. So, very frustrating that we're here, but what do you expect with the young manager that we have, with the young players that we have, with the stupid ownership that thinks that just buying a bunch of young talents and hoping they can all fit together on one team? What do we expect? What do we expect to happen? I'm kicking myself now for falling for the hype of the early season run where we were in good form and we had a bunch of good performances. I'm kicking myself for falling into that trap and thinking, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm excited now. I think we're going to be good this season. And not realizing that my early season brain was going, no, there's a lot of problems here. We're too young. We're too inconsistent. We'll drop off at some point. I don't know why I didn't listen to myself earlier this season. This is what I was expecting from this team. But anyways, with all of that being said, Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. Also, check out the channel. We have a lot of reviews on there as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.